Good morning, students. Welcome to our revision in business studies, one of our lesson on accounting topic where we are discussing the cash book. I believe you are aware of the cash book as a topic and each component that is covered in this topic. But just to remind you, remember that before you look at the cash book, there are three topics that are covered before this topic. And one of the topic, which is topic number 7 in Form 3, is net worth of a business. And topic number 8 is business transaction. Topic number 9 is the ledgers. And then topic number 10 is the cash book. Meaning, therefore, before you get to understand what is in the cash book, you must have the information from the net worth of the business transaction, ledgers, so that now we can build on from there and then discuss the cash book. Now, in our lesson today, we are going to concentrate on the following main areas as our objectives. Number 1, we will be able to look at the meaning of a cash book. Number 2, we look at the types of cash books. And number 3, we'll discuss what we call a 2-column cash book. We'll discuss a 2-column cash book. And therefore, students, you must first understand why do we prepare the cash book. Because from there then we can be able to understand the reason as to why this topic is important. And we prepare the cash book so that we can offload the much information that is recorded in the ledgers. And that's why I told you, when you are looking at the cash book, you must have the information from the ledgers. Again, we prepare the cash book to be able to ascertain and look at the accuracy of what we call the accounting equation. And students, what is the accounting equation? Yes, the accounting equation simply provides that the assets is equals to the capital plus liabilities. So when you have the value for the assets, it should be the same as the value for the assets, the capital, we add the liabilities. That is called the accounting equation. And so from there then, we can now be able to discuss this part on the cash book. So this is what I want you to understand, that we prepare the cash book so that we can be able to give a record of information that is recorded covering or touching on the cash transactions and cash and check transactions. So it captures or simply provides a record of information that is touching on cash and check transactions. And then it has to be able to prove what we call the double entry principle. It has to be able to prove the double entry principle. Therefore, students, the question is, what is a double entry principle? What is the double entry principle? This is also one of the principles that is covered when we are recording information in the ledgers. Remember, we say a ledger uses the double entry principle, and this principle simply states that for every debit entry, there is an equal and corresponding credit entry. For every debit entry, there is an equal and corresponding credit entry. That is what we call the double entry system. And it is the system that gives us the knowledge to record information in the ledgers. So when you understand that, then the preparation of the cash book, therefore, is simply meant to give us the understanding of the double entry principle and prove its accuracy. So here, simply saying the double entry system simply states, the double entry system states that for every debit entry, for every debit entry, there is an equal and corresponding credit entry That is what the double entry principle provides. And you are told that in the transactions involving the ledgers, for every single transaction, we have two accounts that are affected. And that is what we call the double entry, that there are two accounts that are affected when we are discussing the double entry. And that's why one of the accounts will be debited and the other one will be debited. Remember again, this account circulates around 5 areas. It could be an account affecting the assets. It could be an account affecting the liabilities. It could be an account affecting revenues. It could be an account affecting what you call expenses. And then it could be an account that is affecting capital. Those are the 5 main areas that this account will be derived from. And so when you are looking now, our second objective for our lesson, we want to look at the types of cash books. And there are 4 or rather 5 types of cash books. We have the single column cash book. We have the 2-column cash book. We have the 3-column cash book. We have the petty cash book. And again, there is what we call an analytical cash book that I have not captured it here. And the reason is it was taken out of your syllabus. And so we just have to know that there exists what we call the analysis or the analytical type of cash book, but we shall not be able to discuss it since it was scrapped out of our syllabus. Now we have 4 types then to understand and discuss on them. We have the single column cash book, which we'll discuss in this topic. The 2-column cash book, we'll discuss it in this topic. The 3-column cash book, we'll discuss it in this topic. Now the petty cash book will be discussed in the topic we call source documents and books of original entry. That is the first topic in Form 4. So the first 3, we discuss them in the last topic in Form 3, and the 4th, we discuss it in the first topic in Form 4. And that's why now, concentration in our lesson today, we are going to discuss the first 3 types of the cash books. But because of time, we may not look at all of them, but we'll focus mostly on the 2-column cash book. The single column cash book is simply 2 things. It's simply the same as the cash account and the bank account. When we prepare the cash account independently from the bank account, then that is called a single column cash book. So that's why we will look at the 2-column cash book, which has much information for us to discuss and understand today. Now, we explain these cash books based with what we call the amount columns. Each one of them has a certain number of amount columns. I want you to review something on the ledger. When we are looking at the ledger account, we say that a ledger is prepared in a T format. This is the format of a ledger. It has a column for debt, it has a column for details, it has a column for folio and amount. Again, debt, details, folio, amount. This is the debt column, this is the details column, this is the folio, and this is the amount column. Again, this is the debt column, the folio, details, folio, and amount. And we said that on this left-hand side, we call it the debit side. Some people call it the doctor side. It's no problem. Just call it the credit side and the debit side. So that is a ledger. Under a ledger, in ledgers, we discuss one of the accounts as cash account. We also have the bank account. The cash account has only one amount column on both sides of the cash account. Again, the bank account has only one amount column on either sides of the bank account. Such kind of an account, when translated into the cash book, it becomes what we call a single column cash book. Therefore, students, a single column cash book is simply the cash book with only one amount column on both sides of the cash book. That means on the debit side and on the credit side. So when we discuss that, then it means for us to look at the single column cash book, we are only going to look at two things: the cash account, preparation of cash account, and preparation of the bank account. But since these were covered in the ledgers, we are not going to do much on them. And that's why we are going to have our focus on the two-column cash book for this lesson. So let's move further and see what is in the two-column cash book. So we are saying that the two-column cash book has two amount columns on either side of the cash book. It has two amount columns on either sides of the cash book. And then we are saying the debit side records receipts, while the credit side records payments. I want to ask my students one thing, that when you're analyzing the cash book, and any other statement that will come after the cash book, you have to first of all take yourself out from being a student and take yourself to being the business person and be the business owner, so that you get to understand each of the transactions correctly. Once you are given a question touching on Kamau traders, for example, if you are Mary, know that in that case you become Kamau, and so you own that business. If you're given a business with the name Juma Investments, even if your name is David, you become Juma Investments, so that you are able to interpret the transactions correctly and bring it in the right perspective. For you to be able to understand two things: one, what are receipts? And two, what are payments? Receipts happens when you have a transaction bringing money into the business. So when you get money into the business, then that becomes a receipt transaction. When you have a transaction where money is getting out of the business, that transaction now constitutes what we call payments. So that is the difference between the two, payments and receipts. So when looking at the cash book, all receipts are debited, all payments are credited. So we debit the receipts and credit the payment. And I'm saying that payments are those transactions leading to money out of the business, while receipts are those transactions that are bringing money into the business. If you understand it that way, then you will be able to work out any question on the cash book with ease. But first, let's take a look at what is the format. Again, I say that if you are looking at any financial statement, you should be able to understand format, because that is what gives you the mark, the format of the cash book. And in this case, what's the format of a two-column cash book? So this is the format of a two-column cash book. One, remember you have the name of the business, name of the business, it has to be captured. And then below it you write two-column cash book, two-column cash book, two-column cash book. So the name of the business will depend with the question. We will have different names. Use the name given in the question. But below it, you write the 2-column cash book. And then we have two sides. We have the debit side on this side. Then we have the credit side, which is the right-hand side. Each of the side, we have the date column, where we write the dates. Particulars is also called the details column. So in some cases, we will be using the word details column. And what it simply does, it gives us a brief description of what was taking place in that transaction. The folio is used to record the specific page from where the accounts have been extracted from the ledgers. Remember, I've told you that the cash book is prepared to simply relieve the ledgers from relieve much information from the ledgers, because when you prepare the ledgers, we end up with so many accounts. So for us to be able to consolidate those accounts and come up with a single statement that can be able to show the transactions affecting cash and bank, then we prepare the cash book. So the folio gives us the specific page from where the accounts were recorded in the ledgers. And we'll be using different accounts. For example, we can have what we call the sales ledger. The sales ledger. In this case, we use the abbreviation SL under the folio. We have the purchases ledger. Purchases ledger. We use PL to mean the purchases ledger in the folio. We can have information from the general ledger. General ledger. And we shall use GL. We also have what we call the nominal ledger. The nominal ledger. And in this case, we will use NL. And in some cases, we'll end up with what we call a contra entry. A contra entry. And in this case, we will use our C. So the question is, what is a contra entry? Yes, students, what is a contra entry? A contra entry is simply a transaction that is affecting both cash and bank. If you have a transaction affecting both cash and bank, we call that one a contra entry. For example, if you withdraw 10,000 from the bank for office use, it simply means you go to the business bank account, take 10,000 and then take it to the cash account for the same business. Therefore, that is a contra entry. Another example for contra entry is if you deposit 5,000 into the business bank account from the cash till. Then the word here cash till implies that you are taking 5,000 from the cash account of the business and deposit it to the bank account of the same business. That is called a contra entry. So when you get such a case, do not get stranded. It simply refers to a contra entry. Then we have the cash, where we'll record any transaction that is done in cash. Then the bank column will record the transaction affecting bank. And so the same information applies to the credit side. But remember, we are saying on the debit side, we are recording receipts, money in, and then on the credit side, we are recording payments, money out. So that is the format of a 2-column cash book. That is a format of a 2-column cash book. So now I want us to look at the questions that can be tested from this. And I've sampled the questions that were tested in the previous KCSE years. So we'll look at the first one is the KCSE 2015. KCSE 2015. And in this case, in KCSE 2015, this was the question. The following information was extracted from the books of Mamboleo traders in the month of September 2014. We have First, that is cash in hand, or had cash in hand, which was 15,500, and bank overdraft 9,700. September 3, bought goods for sale 12,300 on credit. September 5, sold goods in cash 8,500. That is September 9, sold goods on credit 10,000. September 12, received a check of 9,000 from a debtor. September 15, paid a creditor 10,000 in cash. September 17, paid wages 2,600 in cash. September 19, received a check 23,400 from Samson for goods sold in January. And then we are told the next information is that on September 20th, received 6,700 from a debtor, then withdrew 7,700 from the bank for office use, paid electricity by check 1,200, received a check of 11,500 from a debtor, made cash sales of 12,800, and then purchased goods worth 8,950 in cash, and lastly deposited personal cash 3,500 into the business account, and then paid water bills by check 2,800. That is the question that we have. That was captured in KCSE 2015. So let's analyze this question. We were told to prepare a two-column cash book. Students. So draw the format of the two-column cash book. Both sides of the cash book: debt, details, folio, cash, and bank. The other side again: debt, details, folio, cash, and bank. Then now once you have the format, we can be able to look at the question step by step. Hope you are drawing. Good. Fine. So let's now analyze the question and see what we are saying. So we have that is Mamboleo Traders, then two-column cash book. This is on CR side, and this is the DR side. Debt, details, folio, cash, bank. Debt, details, folio, cash, and bank. So that is what we have as our format. So let's look at each part, each statement. In the first case, September 1 had 15,500 in cash and a bank overdraft of 9,700. So let's record this. First, the cash in hand is going to be debited because that is what he had at the beginning. And then the bank overdraft. On the debit side. So I will record as follows. We'll record now. We're saying we debit the cash, so it is on September 1. That is September 1. The details is simply balance, that is brought down. Cash, how much is it? 15,500. 15,500. On the same date, September 1, we have balance brought down again, and then bank had 9,500. That is the entry for the first transaction. Again, we'll go to the second date. On September 3, bought goods for sale 12,300 on credit. Again, students, is this transaction leading to money in or money out? Now, this is sales on credit. When we have sales on credit, we don't record in the cash book. This one is captured in what we call purchases journal, or purchases daybook, or purchases diary. So we will not record the transaction on September 3. On September 5, sold goods in cash 8,500. When we sell goods in cash, we receive money. And since we are receiving, those ones are called receipts, of which are supposed to be debited. So let's debit transaction number 3, because that is money in. So when we sell goods in cash 8,500, we will take that to the debit side. And so we'll write September 5. That is sales. Cash, how much is this? 8,500. And so this is coming from the sales ledger. So we'll have our SL. And what should be filled in the folio, then you can leave the folio column blank rather than filling what you are not sure of. On September 9, sold goods on credit 10,000. Again, this is a transaction that is on credit sales. It is not recorded in the cash book. So this one will not be recorded in this case. And if you are to record this transaction on September 9, you will open a statement we call the sales ledger. So the sales journal. You record this one in the sales journal, or the sales diary, or the sales daybook. And so we are only recording transactions that are made in cash, or there is involvement of the bank. So we go to the next. September 12, received a check of 9,000 from a debtor. Received a check of 9,000 from a debtor. Again, we are receiving, and so we debit because that is money in. So we'll come to September 12. We'll come to September 12. September 12. And then debit that one. So we have on 12th September, we are receiving from a debtor. We are not told the name of the debtor, so we'll simply write our debtor. Had we been told it's so and so, then it will become easier to note who the person was. And it is received a check, 9,000. That is 9,000 and a bank. And since the data are in the what we call, we will now record them under the purchases ledgers. You can now be able to see what will fill in the next column. So we have paid a creditor. Again, this one is payments, so meaning money out. Paid a creditor 10,000 in cash. So we'll go to the statement and credit, because when we are paying, money is getting out of the business. So we'll go to the statement again in a 2-column cash book, but now we credit. That is on 15th September. 15th September. And then we are doing that one to, we are paying the creditors. So we are paying the creditors. And the amount of how much? 10,000 in cash. 10,000 in cash. Students, I hope we are together and you are enjoying this because this is fun. We can go back to our question again. The next transaction was done on September 17th. Paid wages 2,600 in cash. We paid wages. When we pay money out, that's money out of the business. Therefore, that one is again credited. We credit that one. We'll come to this side. That is September 17th. 17th September. And that is wages. How much? 2,600 in cash. Let's go back to our next, that is on September 19th. Received a check of 23,400 from the sales, that is from Samson for goods sold in January. So goods were sold in January and they are being paid in September. So yes, those are receipts. We'll record on the debit side. So we'll have to, that is September 20th. Is it 20th? This is 20. That is 19th September. We have the transaction was done on 19th September. It is received from Samson. And so that is a cash of how much? A check of 23,400. Good. Let's go back again and finish up now the transactions. On 20th, received 6,700 from a debtor in cash. Again, the word is received, so we will debit this one. We will debit. We received 6,700 in cash from a debtor. So I will come on this date. I will write that is on 20th. That is 20th. It is received, sorry. That is should be debited. So we'll debit on 20th September. That is from who? From a debtor. Cash or bank? Cash of how much? That is 6,700. Good. The next transaction is on 23rd, and that is withdrawal of 7,700 from the bank for office use. Good. That is what we were discussing, students, as a contra entry. When you withdraw cash from the bank for office use, I will repeat, it simply means you are taking cash from the bank account of the business to the cash till for the operation of the business. So that is called a contra entry because it's affecting both cash and bank. In this case, the bank is losing and cash is receiving. So what you do is we debit the cash account and credit the bank account because we will see as if bank is making payments and cash is receiving. So we'll simply credit the bank account and debit a cash account. 23rd September. Side will record, that is 23rd. On the debit side, it is the bank that is losing. Under folio contra entry, then cash, that's how much. 7,700. Then on the same side now, on the CR side, the same date, 23rd, it is now cash that is receiving, contra entry, and then under bank 7,700. Good. 24th, paid electricity by check 12, that is 1,200. When you pay, that is on the credit side. Because of payment, we will credit this. So we'll go to our account on 24th. On 24th. Paying electricity. In cash, how much? 1,200. 1,200. Again, we go to the next, which is 25th. Received a check of 11,500 from Adeta. Received. Yes, received 11,500 from Adeta. Again, that one will be debited. So we'll move to this. Remember the 24th, this transaction is supposed to be under check. That is a record under check, not cash. That is under check 1,200. Then now, next we are receiving, that is 25th. 25th is receiving from Adeta a check of how much? A check of, received a check of 11,500. Check of 11,500. So we'll capture this one in the under bank, 11,500. Good. Let's now wind up now to the next is 26th. Received that is made cash sales of 12,800. We are making sales, therefore we receive. And when we receive the payments or receive the money, we now debit this transaction. So we debit the transaction on 26th. Debit the transaction on 26th. That is 26th. That is from sales, an amount of 12,800. Again, let's look at the next transaction, which is now September 27. Purchased goods worth 8,950. We are purchasing. When we purchase, we take money out. So those are payments. And when we make payments, we credit. So we'll go to the credit side and record the figure. That is on 27th, and that is out of purchases, cash of how much? 8,950. Good. And then we finish up with 28th. Deposited personal cash 3,500 into the bank, into the business account. We are depositing personal cash, so the business is going to have an increase. And remember, if we are looking at it in terms of capital, this is what we call the additional investment, because you are taking resources from your personal resources into the business. So we'll simply have to add the cash, the business cash account. So we have that is on 28th. There is a receipt of. So we have that is in cash, or simply write additional investments, cash of 3,500. 3,500. And lastly, the last transaction, that is on 30th. Paid water bills. Again, money is out by check 2,800. we credit. So we have this one as 30th September. Those are bills or water bills, cash 2,800. So those are the entries for our 2-column cash book. I hope our students have been following the entries and you are now comfortable to do the totals. It's good to understand that after you've prepared the cash book, you need to obtain the totals or do the balancing so that you can be able to see what is the position of your business as at that particular time you are closing the account. So let's close our accounts. Now I need you to use your calculators. Wherever you are, you can now use your calculators to help us work out this. Let's get the total of cash on the debit side. The total of cash on the debit side. So you take 15,500 plus 8,500 plus 6,700 plus 7,700 plus 12,860 plus 3,500. That gives a total of our total on the debit side is 54,700. Let's get the total of cash on the credit side. Yes. Okay. Get totals on the credit side for cash. That is 9,700. Good. The credit side for this is now 9,700. Thank you for this. This is 9,700. Now let's get the total on cash on the CR. 10,000 plus 2,600, 8,950, 21,550. 21,550. Definitely the debit side is more. The difference between them, what is the difference between the two? 33,100. That becomes our balancing figure. On 30th. That is now balance carried down. Cash, that is how much? 33,150. So that now it gives us a total of 54,700. 54,700. Let's get the total for bank. On the debit side, we have 9,000 plus 23,400 plus 11,500. 43,900. 43,900. Let's compare it to the DR side. 9,700 plus 7,700 plus 1,200 plus 2,800. $29,400. What is the difference? What is the difference? 22,500. So it means therefore our balancing figure here is 22,500. So the total is 43,900. And so we have our total on this side. Again, it will be the same total. So we have to underscore this. They should be in the same line. So that is 43,900 and then we have this as a 54,700. Good, that is our entry for this question on the 2-column cash book. So therefore, students, I believe you've been able to see what we do in the preparation of a 2-column cash book. Now, for your revision purpose, there is a question again that you can be able to look at, and then we will be able to end up at that point. So we have this is the question. Maybe in 1 minute you can be able to write that, then we conclude our lesson. That those are information relating to Dagoretti Enterprise. March 1 started the business with 15,300 in cash and a bank overdraft of 8,200. March 3 made cash purchases of 10,200 in cash. March 4, Harrison Adeta settled his account of 18,000 by issuing a check of 13,400. Number 5, paid wages by check 5,000. Number 6, received a check of 9,310 from Chebet. And then 7, received cash of 7,720 from. Number 8, paid Hassan 5,450. Number 9, deposited 6,000 from the office into the business bank account. And finally, we are told to number 10, paid insurance. Paid insurance 3,700 by check, then paid 3,900 for repairs, and last, that is 12, received 8,570 in cash from Mwende, received check of 11,200 from Makoha, paid water bill 2,590 by check, then lastly paid 6,500 by check, took all the cash into the bank, then you are told to required you cash book for the month of March 2016. Good. So let's sample out questions from our viewers, our students who are viewing from different places in our country, and see what they are asking about concerning to cash book. So one of the question is, a student asked, why is a 3-column cash book both a ledger and a journal? And the reason is simple. When talking about the journals, we are looking at the entries of information as originally captured in the books of account. And so the cash book, 3-column cash book, captures two things: the record of cash and record of bank as originally recorded in the initial books of account. And that is why it serves as both a cash book and a journal at the same time. Again, it is a ledger. So that is the reason as to why the 3-column cash book serves as both a ledger and a journal. It simply records the information as originally captured in the books of account. Another one has a question: when recording the particulars, is the okay, is there a penalty if you record one side, you record particulars, and the other side you record details? I would say if you have to use particulars, then use particulars for both cases, the debit side and the credit side. If you're to use details, then use the same for both sides so that you don't mix it up. Hi, I'm Mary from Udhiru. Is it a must where there is a contra entry you record on the same line for both sides? Again, that is, there's no rule that you have to maintain the same line, but for the purpose of easy understanding and viewing the information, you can do that. However, if you choose to record different lines, then ensure you show it correctly using the capital letter C, which implies the contra entry. Then we have Nevens from Mombasa. Nevens from Mombasa has a question. What do you do when told that all the cash was taken to the bank in the last transaction? Now, if you're told that at the end of the transaction, all the cash was taken to the bank, then it means you are going to get the total of cash on the debit side and get the total cash on the credit side. Then get the difference between the two on the debit and the credit. Then the amount that remains, you bank that amount. So it becomes a contra entry at the end of the transactions. So you'll only bank the balance. Why? Because we look at what is on the debit side as the amount of money that you have. And then what is on the credit side as the amount of money what you are supposed to pay out. And so we get the difference to see how much will you be left with. Then from there, we now deposit to the bank. So it becomes a contra entry. In some cases, again, you may be told you banked a certain amount and you are left with, for example, 5,000. Then it means after adding the total on the debit side, adding the total on the credit side, you get the difference. Now the remaining value, you subtract 5,000. Then you bank the remaining figure. That is what we deal with when you are looking at the contra entry. And Mary, that is, what is the difference between personal use and office use, and how do they affect the cash book? Now, when talking about personal use, we refer to them as transactions or simply withdrawals of money or resources from the business for any other use that is not meant for the business. And so those becomes drawings. Now, the effect of drawings is that it reduces capital. And the effect of the other side is when you are now withdrawing for business use, you now affect cash till. So you increase the cash in the business. What do wages mean? Wages is simply a reward for labor. Remember in Form 1 under Topic 4, you discuss production. That is Topic 4 in Form 1 is called production. Under that, we discuss what we call factors of production and their rewards. And one of the factors of production is labor, whose reward is wages. So that is the feedback we've received from we really appreciate for watching KUTV Elimu Live. With me again, I had my student. Let him say hi as we finish up. His name is, I had a student in studio, that is Anthony. Anthony, thank you for being part of the lesson. Yes, so with that, we now come to the end of our lesson today. We'll meet again next time. Keep watching KUTV Elimu Live and enjoy the rest of our viewing. Thank you.